Hey guys, welcome to another video and hope you guys are enjoying your weekend. I am enjoying mine, but I had to talk about this topic. I was watching Jason's video on the Portland show that recently came out, and as you guys know, he was like showing prices of retro things at that show. Some stuff was really high, some stuff was fair, some stuff was low, etc. And quite a few people were heated about the prices at these shows and everything, and I just wanted to kind of talk about that. So when I went to that show, when the doors opened, it was crazy. A lot of people, there was a lot of vendors there. So I think there was like 300 vendors or something like that. So there was plenty of places to go. Now, some stuff was like high end, you know what I mean? Like, prices were very high. I didn't notice they went up over time, but some of these games and systems have gone up. Now, you're probably asking yourselves, why is this stuff so expensive? Like, what the heck is going on? Because retro game collecting, at least back in the late 2010s, early 2010s, it was fairly cheap, and probably way cheaper before that, dirt cheap. A lot of us remember those times. But what's happening, and it's been happening for a while now, is that people are keeping their items that they buy. They're not like trading in or reselling it. A lot of that stuff, especially on the higher end stuff, a lot of these games were released in limited quantities. They didn't sell well back in the day, and there's just not much out there. But of course, now these games aren't being sold at regular retailers anymore, so you're dealing with secondhand sellers, and they can pretty much charge whatever they want. Usually they go off what is going for off of like something like price charting, which is cool. They see what people are actually wanting or willing to pay for it, and they pretty much go from there. Now, I think also what's happening with a lot of this retro stuff is that people only want it when it becomes like rare and expensive. They want it then, but when it's cheap and at regular retail, sometimes they don't even care about it. It's just until when it gets like this popular or whatever like that, that's when people may want certain stuff. Now, it's not always like that, of course. A lot of these manufacturers, like I'll use the Nintendo 3DS. A model of that is going for like $900, and that's Nintendo's fault for not making that in such limited quantities. You guys know what I'm talking about, the Super Nintendo version of the 3DS. That's like going for $1,000. Actually, at the show, a guy sold one for $1,000, which was like, I was like, damn, really? I had no idea they were going for that much. So it's pretty insane, but there's people who want that stuff. And to them, I'm assuming, money is no object if you're throwing that kind of money around, because I kind of base my collecting on like buying on the cheap. I bought back in the day, I know how it was, so I've kind of like plateaued my collection to where I've pretty much got most of everything I want. So I'm not out here trying to get a lot of this expensive stuff anymore. I'm trying to get commons and things like that, and really enjoying everything. But for those of you that want to get into collecting, I would say, and me and Jason say this all the time, don't go what everybody's going for. Like, go for something else, that's on the cheap. Start your collection from there. And we've been saying it for a while now. The 7th generation, PS3, 360, Wii stuff, and up from there. Up now, even PS4 and Xbox One stuff. A lot of this stuff is really cheap, and you can start your collection from there. But I think just a lot of people just find themselves like trying to collect what everybody else is collecting. A lot of that stuff is really expensive, and a lot of secondhand sellers are selling that stuff. So you kind of have to bow down to their prices if you want some of that stuff. Unless you know how to barter and trade, you can work out a deal. But a lot of you guys, well, I shouldn't say a lot of you guys, but some of you guys don't know how to do that or refuse to do it, which is totally fine. A lot of stuff reached their price height during the COVID situation, and now I feel like a lot of that stuff is gradually coming down. I mean, it'll never be what it used to be, from back in the mid 2010s or even before that, but I think a lot of the stuff will become fair, what I mean, when it comes to like, some of the higher end stuff possibly, it just really depends on supply and demand of it, like I said, a lot of people are keeping their stuff, so you just never know. But if you do want something that's really expensive, it's always good. It's always good to like do some kind of like trade. I always bring items that I don't want anymore. Like, I go through my collection every year and I look at stuff, and it's very minimal when this happens too, because I pick out a lot of stuff that I really want. But sometimes there's things I don't get to, and it's unfortunate. So I'll bring those to these shows to trade somebody for something else I do want. And a lot of it, I feel like this stuff is really popular. So when you're trading these guys, they really like stuff that they're able to move fast. You know what I mean? So something that they can sell fast, or something that could stay that's rare and collectible to them. They probably might stay in their inventory for a while until some kind of high roller comes up and picks it up. Doing things like that can help you get the stuff you want. You know, just want to put it out there that like every time you see stuff for sale like at these events, it's not always like you have to pay straight up cash. Like these guys are willing to deal as long as you have something interesting. I mean, don't go in there and try to trade in a bunch of sports games or something like that for something really rare. Then they're gonna look at you like you're crazy, and then they probably won't even want to deal with you anymore. So that's a part of the hustle nowadays. If you want to get like a lot of these high end expensive things, you know, you kind of want to bring in trade to soften the blow, or bring in something really cool and just do a straight across trade. Now, of course, use your brain, because like you got to make sure you know what your stuff is worth, at least what it's worth to you, before doing these type of trades, so you don't feel like you get ripped off or whatever like that. But I do want to say this, guys, you know, it is hard to see a lot of this stuff like so expensive, but for myself personally, thankfully, I'm not actively like looking for a lot of stuff like that. Like, I'm not looking for like an NES in box or just a box only to go with it. You know, I know buying a box like that, like you guys have seen in the video, for like $100, $150 is insane because it's just cardboard. But people want stuff that's collectible in their collections because it reminds them of a good time when times were carefree and they had their video games to play. You know, it's nice to know that you have something in a box that you could play at any time, even though you probably aren't going to play it. It's there, you know, kind of like a library pretty much. Like you're not going to read all the books, but you could read them anytime you want. I personally knew like this probably would happen, you know, with the popularity of the retro community. You know, the more people that are in it, the more people want stuff. And, you know, like I said earlier in the video, people are keeping their stuff. So there's not saying, I shouldn't say there's not a lot out there, but the stuff that is out there, you know, it is kind of somewhat scarce, and people are charging for it because it's not likely that it might come into their collections again too. So a lot of people look at it like that as well. But like I said before, guys, you know, look at stuff if you want to get into game collecting. You know, look at stuff that's more affordable. And me and Jason always talk about like what is affordable right now when it comes to systems. Like I said earlier, PS3, PS4, Xbox 360, Xbox One. At least I think the 360 hype went down. It went up for a little bit when the store closed. But hopefully that hype went down and the games are more affordable. But you're going to find a lot of great games on those systems. And I think it's time for people to kind of like, if you want to build a collection, start off those consoles, because a lot of the older stuff is just like so sought after and expensive now. It might turn some people off. And another reason I say start on those systems, because a lot of you guys are cheapskates. You don't want to spend too much money on a game. So I feel like those systems are perfect. And I know a lot of you guys hate GameStop. You know, I think they still have some, what you would, well, I don't want to call them retro games, but they have PS3 games, 360 games, and Wii games in their stores. So, you know, like I said, if you want to start cheap, you can definitely start with those systems. Anyways, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Retro game collecting too expensive? I guess I could say yes and no. See you later, guys.